Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bruce Smith from San Diego Bass Fishing Podcast. This is the podcast where we talk about the bass fishing scene in San Diego. Imagine that. So today we're going to bring on Dennis Kolender, and we're going to ask him a few questions. He can be a very opinionated kind of guy, and I think we're going to have fun with that. So today, as far as the bass fishing news goes, today we had the juniors tournament. Congratulations to Bryce Daheen. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. He had a 17-pound bag. We were at El Cap. Second place went to John Forseca, and third place was Talon Patton. Each of these guys, each of these kids are hammers. They're really good fishermen. They figured it out, and they pulled off some big bags today. So that was pretty awesome. My guys. I had one of my guys, Ryder Lynn, was fishing with one arm. He just had surgery that had his arm in a sling, and he had a 11.29-pound bag. We basically went down the bank and fished Nico rigs and caught 2-pounders and 2.5-pounders. But it was good enough for a fifth place. So congratulations, Ryder. It was a fun day. We're gonna have Sean Hallwater on here later on as a guest, and he'll talk to us more about that. But we're looking forward to that one. But it's always a fun day, great times with the kids. It's all volunteer basis, so the kids don't have to find their own. The kids don't have to find their own boat. All they have to do is sign up for the club, and then Sean puts together all the volunteers. So we have 40 kids, 20 boats for every tournament. There's doing 5 tournaments a year, and we take the kids fishing. Put 2 kids per boat. Okay, looks like, and then we take them fishing for the day, and it's awesome. And we're sending kids back east to the nationals. Looks like Dennis is in the waiting, so we're gonna bring him on now.
You hear me right now?
I gotcha.
Well, we're good to go.
Nice. Yeah, it was so funny. I had Jim Slide on here last night, and man, we had some issues trying to get the whole unmuted, muted. Here, I can't hear you. I can't hear you, man. We went back and forth a bunch. I'm glad this worked out so easily the first time.
How is he ready?
Yeah, Jim's good.
He's
You
ready to go.
know, yeah,
He's been doing it for long.
we almost talked for an hour last night on this thing. He has a lot of stories. A lot of stories
Oh
to
yeah,
tell. Yep.
I
So,
have too, but I probably forgot half of them.
right.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
So this is a local, basically pro, or at least used to be pro. I think you're still a pro in my book. Dennis
Yeah.
Kolender, San Diego Bass Fishing, and so tell me, let's just kick it off here. Where did it all start for you, Dennis?
I want to say that I started fishing. I grew up in San Carlos, and I was fishing Lake Murray when I was a kid. My dad would take me there, and how I really got started in bass fishing was at the time my dad was chief of police, and Bob Bergreen, which is Big Water Bob, that did a lot for San Diego back in the day. He was like a mentor for me, and he was like my fishing father. So I started in the San Diego Junior Bass Masters, which is a long time, like 1975. I was like 12 years old. It was crazy. And I even have like a trophy from 1976. And I'm not that old, but yeah. So I started there. San Diego, we did a Junior Bassmasters for a couple years, and then the Bassmasters kind of didn't want it anymore, and um, we ended up starting. It was a junior club called Southern California Bass Pros. Obviously, we
Okay.
admired the San Diego Bass Pros, and so we picked that name. And so it was in like, I was probably, at that time, a little bit older, 14, 15, 16, 17. And it was all kids under 18, kind of like
Mm.
what you guys have going on in San Diego now, but it was just a kids club. And at one time, we ended up fishing the top six with the rest of the clubs. There was like
Oh,
22 clubs at one time.
yeah, no
And
kidding.
it was like, I mean, one time we fished a tournament at El Cap, top six, and a friend of mine, one of the guys that fished with us, we had, not everybody had a boat, but he had a little fishing marine. Motor didn't work and just had to use a trolling motor the whole day.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, but that's how it really started there, and um, I really didn't fish a whole lot of team tournaments back in the early years. I really didn't.
yeah.
Uh, I started fishing. I fished a few different clubs with Slight. I was in the Road Rangers for a minute. I was in the uh, Midweek Bass Anglers, which is a unique thing that Jim was in there too. Jim and the last club that I fished was the Bass Company when
Mm,
Jim Cass was in there, Joe Steele, Joe Bowman, a lot of Chuck English, a lot of these
yeah.
old
That
timers that were.
Bass Company's always been a
It was.
man highliner of a
It
club.
was. It was. It
It,
went. And as all as what's interesting to say, and my hair just stood up on my back of my head. That as much as all the fish I fished, all the stuff I ever did, I even fished a tour in '03 and '04. I fished at the time it wasn't the Elite Series, but it was the top 150s. I still remember more of the fishing locally, just in a club. I was in a club for at least 20 years. It kept me at the time of all the other BS going on, drugs and all that. It kept me straight. I mean, it was
yeah,
like something to do, and I'd have a million stories about all the club tournaments. Spending the night in line.
I know. Isn't that
Oh
something that
yeah,
we just do in San Diego? It's just like we spend the night in line.
oh
It's
yeah.
just
We used to. Now, one of the tournaments I fished in the that was in my other with the thing with the kids tournament, which was Southern California Bass Pros. I went to a concert. I went to the Kinks concert, and I came home and picked up my boat and went and slept in line. I still had my concert shirt on, the Kinks,
yeah.
and I went and fished the tournament and won it. And it was super classic because one of my first boats that I had, I was probably at that time I was probably 18. I had a bass tracker I had a 15-footer with a 40 on it. So I was
Yeah,
probably 17 or 18 when I got that, and it was pretty classic back then. Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was. But
Nice.
then I finally, I ended up fishing like in the 80s, in 86, 85 and 86. I fished. I was able to fish um, the circuit after Western Bass, which was U.S. Bass,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I
I
did
remember when it
back.
switched.
Yeah, so there was like a circuit that had non-boaters and pros, but we all paid the same. So the first tournament I fished, I was able to do it. We were one of the guys another club paid my entry fees. He had to have because I was broke kid, and it was at Lake Mead. Never fished it or anything, and it was 1986. Went to Mead, and there was 350 boats. I mean, 350 guys to 175 boats back then.
Yeah, yeah.
And the first day I draw Byron Frankenberger, which is crazy. Yeah,
You draw a San Diego guy.
it was super classic. He had the old Ranger, the 370V with the Roland Martin flipping deck, and
The one that was totally flat that stuff would roll off of.
yes, yes, we had
Yeah,
the. I can't remember what trolling motor. I think he had the Merc thruster on it, but like years later, I bought his best friend's Jim Casebolt 370, which was one of the first 370Vs ever built, and it was brought to San Diego. They were both out of the same mold, and it was a 1980. Five, I think it was, and Joe Bowman had this exact same boat, which ended up being Joe Seals at one time. It was the same. The two boats were similar, but Case Bolt, he jacked it. He put the Roland Martin flipping deck, and we had the Louisiana style hand trolling motor, the one that just had two buttons on the front. Matter of
And
fact,
like
I had no electronics on my
a
boat.
killer.
On the front of the boat for years, I had no electronics.
Yeah.
I had a 1510C papergraph on the console, and I did have a Lowrance, the Indash, the 1440, which is the flasher. I learned how to use a flasher, and it was facing the other way. But up in front, no, it was just all deck. I was super reaction fisherman back
Hmm.
back then. A lot of jerk baits that was probably the big thing. At the time, you didn't have to go catch a big bag to win a tournament, and throwing a jerk bait and throwing it on the surface too. We threw a lot of Rapalas that we twitched.
Yeah. Yeah. Greg Gardner was a huge jerkbait
Oh
fisherman.
yeah.
Like he's like, oh, that's how I won all my tournaments back in the day. I was one of the first guys with a jerkbait. People didn't
Well, you know what?
understand.
I got him beat because there was a thing called, some people call it like Frankenberg jerk, and I don't know if I ever invented it, but I did it at a very, very, very young age.
Yeah.
And we were fishing breaking fish, and we throw our, at the time it was like 11S or a 13S Rapala, and either a bait cast or a spinning rod, and we jerk it crazy through the breaking fish, and we'd catch them.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we go back to Greg Gardner. I took him to San Vicente the first time. I think he picked me up on the shore. Or we met somewhere, and first time he fished San Vicente, I showed him San Vicente, and I was just young, like 14 years old. So, yeah, Greg.
It's funny because he's got a different story about that.
Really? Yeah, he probably does. Yeah, he might have picked me up.
I think he said he showed you around. Was
Oh,
the
okay.
story I got.
You know how it is. We're talking about. You know how that goes.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, which is great. But anyway, but yeah. Greg's been. I mean, he's been a rock star in San Diego for a long time. He really has. You know,
I
just
love
like,
that guy.
you
And
know, a
so
lot of, even like your partner there. You know, Jim. You know.
yeah, he's been around forever. He's he
Dude,
was around.
I do have to say that the San Diego Bass Pros was like the the club that everybody looked up to. Man, they had the money, they had all the cool boats, they had the cool Rangers. Then some of them switched to.
So San Diego Bass Pros, that wasn't Pisces, was it? They changed their name?
No, I don't think it was. And we could talk about Pisces because I was really good friends with, Bobby Sandberg and Dave Noller and Bill Murphy. They all started it back in the day. This is stuff huge in the early 70s,
Yeah, right.
and I remember it because I'm like the old school. I go back so old school that I grew up fishing like even crawdads, and you can throw all the artificial baits you want, but when it comes down to the real person that throws a crawdad, it takes a really lot of talent. And we used to have the aluminum boats. We'd have two anchors out, and just because you would want to be locked, and we'd stitch. And then people go, "What's stitching?" And you got guys like Bobby Sandberg, probably remember stitching. Mike Folk's dad. I still do it to this day, and people laugh, and I catch some pretty good ones on it. I'm pretty sure your partner there, Jim, probably stitches a little bit.
He
Maybe,
will.
maybe.
Yeah. I asked him, what are you doing back there? He says, never
It
mind.
is because it's so old school. It's like, I mean, it's not nothing you're gonna go do at like Okeechobee, or you're not gonna do it at Lake Fork or anything like that. You just, because the bite is completely different. It has to do with the way our lakes are and the way the deep water is, and just
Yeah.
how bass really, you know, And we were pretty fortunate back in the late 70s and early 80s of big time, big fish, plus probably because of the trout in all the lakes. But
Right, right. Yeah.
yeah.
And it was the beginning of that strain too. It was like F1s basically, right? I mean,
Oh, the strain of the bass?
yeah.
Yes. I'm not that great. We get Adam East on it and he'll get you dialed in on it. But I guess there was, like at Murray, there was a lot of northerns there, and they had like the state record northern, I think, at one time, which is 13, 14 pounds. Sam and Sinney had one of the state records male bass that was, I remember, in the 11 or 12 pound range for male.
Uh-huh. Huh.
A lot of the lakes right now, I think, like Hodges has, obviously some of the biggest fish ever. And I don't know if it's not the straight Florida strain. I never really followed it real close, but I guess the northern end of Florida's make it completely different. I'm
Right.
not sure how it's like a mixture of these fish. I
Yeah.
mean, we will go back to a little bit of Salmon City that back in the 80s, no, it was the 70s because I was still walking the bank, that they put spotted bass and smallmouth in Salmon City.
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
and it was pretty cool. But the whole time I did it, I think I never caught a spotty, but I caught a couple smallmouths, which was like back then we were like, wow,
Yeah.
it was pretty
I
cool. Cool.
I grew up in Hemet and we had Lake Paris. And
Oh yeah,
Lake Paris had spotted bass in it. It
yes,
didn't
yes.
before it had
We
marginal.
fished it. The San Diego Bass Company had tournaments out there. The only fish you would catch was the spot. They had no
Yeah.
largemouth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And now,
They had the world record for a long time.
yes,
9 pounder.
I remember that.
Yep.
I
Gil
really,
Rowe. He was fishing crawdads over in Bernasconi Beach.
yeah.
He was light lining them. He was like 5 pound, six
Oh,
pound,
yeah.
4 pound. He was catching line records. But then he also caught the world record. It was like a 9.6 or something.
9.6. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember that fish. I do. Now I'm thinking about it. But yeah, and I've been to Paris a couple times since, but it's like I didn't spend a lot of time. Like all this fishing that I'm talking about in 1996, 95, Bassmasters was never around in the West Coast. Never around. So
Yeah.
me and my best friend Bob Palashevsky, we took a trip one time to Texas, Arkansas, and Missouri in I think it was 1994, and we went to all these different lakes like Sam Rayburn, Toledo Bend, Lake Fork, and it was interesting. So I met a guy there on one of the lakes that I've been a union plumber my whole life. He goes, I can get you a job right now. And I just went. It was in 95 or 96. 96. I went and we all at time back in the day, we admired Jay Yellis, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So he was living in Jasper, Jasper, Texas, which was crazy. And so
Hmm.
I tried to go to Jasper and I couldn't get a place. So I got a place close to Beaumont and I got a job out there in Beaumont and I was fishing. And I started fishing like back then it was really hard to get into any Bassmaster tournament. It really was. You get on a waiting list. You
Yeah.
know, I
Right.
wasn't big time
Still.
sponsored or anything. And so I fished Redman and did pretty good in Redman back there and made it to the championship.
Now Redman, they had huge purses, right? Like the payouts were big.
Well, it was Redman and it turned into BFL.
Okay.
They did it
Yeah.
out here in the West too, but it was a workings man tournament. What it was I think you practiced on Saturday. The tournament was Sunday, one day, and it was
Yeah.
like $7,500, which was pretty good. We only had like a $75 entry fee.
Right.
Yeah, because I remember I was in BFL. We fished the Colorado River Division in the West here. This is after I came back after that, and I fished. Yeah, it was like 2001 or something like that, and we were fishing all the Colorado River lakes, and then they had a Western circuit, and so in the Colorado River lakes Havasu, Meade, Mojave was all what it was. And I think I was Angler of the Year in 2001 in BFL. And then 2002 was the last year that they had it. It was really a bummer because it was a neat, kind of a fun trail. It really was. It really
Yeah.
was. But it was again. This is man tournament. This is you drew boat to boat. You had to flip a coin and bullshit your way.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I
Yeah.
remember like guys like Jim Jarrett I drew and different things. And sometimes you can just go in the back of the boat at Meade and hold your own too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then but I ended up fishing out there. I guided on Lake Fork in 96, 97. And then late 97, the West finally, they had a Bassmaster Trail finally in 97.
Uh-huh.
And so I ended up, and with the Western Trail that people don't even understand changed bass fishing hugely. And the reason why is back in the early days, they only had it where, and you could only use a 150 horsepower motor. So a
Hmm.
lot of boats were like, the Ranger 461 and all that. And even the people would run like a 488, which is a 19 footer, still had only a 150. But when
Yeah.
it came to the West Coast, so they finally said, the only way we're going to get participation, everybody had 200s and 225s. It was way before the 250s. And so they said, yeah, let's do
Is this
this.
because of Meade and Powell?
Yeah, yeah,
We're
and they
so
had
big?
different legs. And so what happened there, which is great, and it was the biggest thing that changed boating, the industry. They all went, oh my God, they didn't know it. And so they opened it up not just for the West, for all the Eastern and the Central Division and I think it was a Northern Division. I think there was 4 divisions at the time. But yeah, so what it did is now all the boat companies decided to go big, and once we went big, then they
Yeah.
made money, and it was a really good thing because there was guys that had these tournament, same little boats in Bassmasters fishing Okeechobee, and I don't
Yeah.
know, I fished Okeechobee twice. You go out in the middle, you can't see the shoreline.
Right. Yeah.
I followed Rojas one tournament. We were out there in practice. I followed him to the middle, and I was at the time I was sponsored by Procraft, and I got to the middle, and it got so big. It was not funny. It was really bad. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Oh
but
yeah.
I should have drove around the lake and fished there because it was windy that day, and I should have known. But that's part of learning.
Right.
And it was pretty classic though. But like I fished the tour in '03 and '04, and that was basically it was all right. It was good. Met a lot of people. The 2 years I fished in '03, my roommate was Jimmy Reese
Yeah.
and Brett Height a little bit, and I ran around with Luke Clausen. And then the second year in 2004, my roommate was Ish Monroe.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And then, like, when I go back a little bit, '96, when I was back there in Texas fishing a little bit of the Bassmaster tournament, um, I had a really good friend that was Takahiro Mori. And when he won his first tournament in 1996, me and him were camping together. At the time, he didn't have money.
Yeah.
He had a guy that was a guy named is Masaki Shimono was the lure designer for Lucky Craft, and
Yeah.
he had a boat and a van, and Takahiro would just, you know, he would just he would borrow it. And I remember when he won Lake of the Ozarks, which was my first Bassmaster tournament, it was like it was pretty interesting. It was great that he won the tournament. It was good,
Yeah. I
But
love the fact that with the Japanese guys or even like the Australian guys, they come over here and they just like throw caution to the wind and they just go for it,
oh yeah, yeah,
Totally different country. They don't know the language, they don't know the food, much less how to get around. And
oh yeah.
they're just
Takahiro,
going
he can
for it.
drive.
It's all
I
yeah.
have stories to where, yeah, uh, yeah, yeah. Like not just you got Takahiro Mori, Nashiki, let's see, Koto Kariyami. Nasaki,
Kenta Kimura,
yeah,
Taku.
Nori Watanabe, and that was an interesting one there too. That nobody even knows a lot of the stories about Norio. He was, I think, the first Japanese angler to ever win a Bassmaster tournament.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and Mark Kyle practiced for him in Kentucky Lake and got paid to pre-fish for Norio, and Norio won the tournament. He was just
Well,
there. He was back in the day. Mark Kyle was he fished the tour the year I did too, but this
yeah,
is way before that. And yeah, it was the first time. That was the first time a Japanese angler won a Bassmaster event, which is
huh,
super unique.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the stories, we don't have time for that.
They win them all the time now.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway,
So
so
okay, so just to kind of change the gearing here, I made mention before you came on here that we were talking, talking on the phone and this and that you were kind of an opinionated fisherman.
well, I feel I have the right to be
So
opinionated because I was there I mean, Jim Bitter days and
yeah,
Sun days.
yeah.
Even though we were on this other side of the world, we saw it and followed it.
So the bass fishing scene, even on the local scene, has changed, you know, and we've seen this whole electronic thing come up,
Oh yeah.
and it's changed the face of how we go about catching fish, or I should say how we go about winning tournaments,
It's
really.
about winning tournaments. It's not really, yeah, definitely is. And it's you know, it's an interesting thing, you know. I know deep down inside, I did say some stuff about Randy Blockett, and he's a clown. I'm sorry. But just some of the stuff that he said, I agreed with, and other anglers have agreed too. That been around for a long time. It's just it's not bass fishing. It's game. It's you got these kids that haven't spent the time of the years that a lot of these anglers have spent time catching fish on different baits and everything. And these kids, they can simplify it. They have a handful of baits, and they go out there and they can smash it. They're really good on the computer. I mean, like right
But
now, before we got on this, I had
mhm.
to have my daughter come over and help me with my computer. And this is just my phone. I thought I was going to do it on my computer, but the fact is, when we get older, we're not all that great on it, and I don't, I don't it's not really super bad, but like I have it on my last boat, on my Ranger boat. I just sold it, and I had it on the front, and I used it. I used it to locate rocks, structure, and I see fish down there, but I didn't individually fish for individually fish. That's the way because it just like looking down. I've been in construction for 35, 40 years, and looking down for a long period of time, my neck, is that's a weird thing too. It's hard. It's hard to look down,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
being 60 years old now. So the young kids, I don't blame them. They they got to do it, and they're killing it. I've seen them. It's like we get jealous, not jealous, but the only problem what's going to happen here, and it's going to happen here in the team tournaments, is uh, to start seeing a lot of the same guys doing really well on some of that. And I think it's gonna
Well,
cut back on the numbers. It's gonna cut back on the numbers until they
yeah.
until they cut back on it. You've seen the videos right now the other day with Iconelli and in KVD. They were talking about, I don't know exactly because I do not watch a lot of fishing stuff. I really don't. And I but I know they're talking that it's just one thing they do is just like another sport. Every sport has, like, you got baseball, you can't use aluminum bat. You got, different things that you have to, like electronics has to be limited. If anything, at the beginning of it, they have to limit it to like a couple units on the front and one on the console or something. Something has to be, because that's
Right.
not what bass fishing is. That's not what the natural instincts. Kevin Van Dam, when he went out, guaranteed he went out because he was natural instinct fisherman and realized he doesn't want to do it. And I
Yeah.
agree. I understand it. And there's a bunch of guys. But the biggest problem with the guys that are fishing all professionally, and I know it, they can't say anything because of the sponsors.
Right.
So
There's
that's
too
why
much
I
money
could be
involved.
the old guy and be kind of, a jerk about it because I don't care. And but I see it. But no, I don't. Yeah, we all know.
You're you're going to be around next year. You're going to be around
Yeah,
the year after
you know,
that. You
fishing,
ain't going
you
anywhere.
know, I'm ready to go fishing, you know. Now, a
So
lot
I
of times,
okay. So just I'd like to just say is that yeah, the kids are using the electronics and whatever, but I fish a lot. I'm out there,
oh,
and those guys. But I also see those kids out there, like Carter Coleman. I mean, and Jake and these other kids are relatively kids anymore. They're in their 20s now,
yeah,
but
yeah,
they are out there. They're like putting the time in. It's
they
not
are,
like they're
but they
just going
realize,
out there and turning a machine on and catching fish. I mean,
yeah,
they are
yeah.
putting some hours in.
Well, me and Bob have said, dude, Jake is good enough. Dude, get out of here. Go do it. I think
Yeah,
he needs to jump. I
yeah,
mean, he's just hanging out here. He's making a little bit of money. I know he has a nice little career that he's been doing,
yeah.
but he has the talent to go places
He
and go
does.
do
He
it.
went to he
If you're
went
gonna
to
do it
Clear.
that
He
way,
got
do
ninth.
it.
You
Huh?
know, he went up to Clear Lake. He got ninth place up there.
Yeah, yeah, it was
So
great. I saw
yeah.
that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Tell him to get out of here and quit taking our money.
Well, so I don't know what's going to happen with locally. Are we going to limit it? We're just going to have to see. It's been like I said, every other sport has limitations and stuff that you can do and you can't do. And bass fishing is one that doesn't they don't do anything, and it's kind of hard. And the electronic industry is they're going nuts. I mean, you've seen these guys,
Oh
uh,
yeah.
five
Oh
or
yeah.
six units on a boat. It was like, dude, I don't want to look at a computer. I want to go fishing. I want to throw a line and think that I have natural instinct that I think that fish is moving up on the bank and he's close to that piece of brush. Not about looking at it. And just, it's a whole completely different thing. So, you know,
Hmm.
it's,
Yeah.
it's different. But I mean, it's not like I bought a new boat, you know,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
I left Ranger and I went to Phoenix.
This is the big announcement, huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Because
went to
you
Phoenix,
haven't got it yet,
but
but
I haven't
yeah.
got
So
it
that's a
yet.
big deal. I
I've
just
been
saw
up.
your old boat at San Vicente,
Oh yeah,
the
that was my
second one.
friend. Now
Is
Keith bought my boat. Me and him were in kindergarten together.
is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, we go way back, and he got a real good deal on the boat. It was great, and I mean, I know everybody saw the rattlesnake thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a classic. But anyway, um,
So you're
I've
going to
been
Phoenix.
like Lawrence. Lawrence was like one of my best sponsors I've ever had back in the day. I was a service tech back in the early 2000s for the West Coast, and that they took care of me better than any other sponsor I ever had. Entry
Yeah.
fees, things like that. And
Yeah.
and I know that they were bought out by Navco, and things have kind of changed, and they're still good. And I just wanted to change, so I ended up going to Garmin, and
Mm.
because and the main thing is that they're a little bit easier friendly, and my ass ain't getting any younger, and so the easier friendly thing, I thought it'd be okay because I think they're all pretty good. They all have their own different
Yeah.
specialties,
Right.
and I ended up getting you know Panoptics up in the front, and I have two units, two 12s in the front, and a 12-inch on the console. So but I did go to a bigger boat. I went to a 20. I ended up
21.
working the new 921 XE Phoenix,
Oh,
which is new for 2024. This one's going to be
yeah.
2025. I'm pretty excited about it, but it would be good if it fits in the garage. We'll be good.
You have to
It's just another boat,
put in
and
there
we all go back
diagonal.
to boats. Boats are just tools. Boats are just tools. Doesn't matter.
Did you go with the green again?
Six champion. It's just a tool.
Oh, I
Yeah.
know.
Oh
I
yeah.
know. I love
But
my little boat.
oh yeah, you like I even thought about going that same direction of getting a cheaper boat and just don't even worry about it, parking up, and because that boat is perfect for San Diego. I've seen it. I remember Stan Hendricks's boat,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Oh
where I
yeah.
got it from.
Yep. Yeah.
How do you feel about the state of our lakes? You think they're doing okay? You think they're? I mean, I know obviously it was like it's not the good old days. We're not stocking trout, but at the same time, we've got people driving down here from the Inland Empire in LA to fish El Cap and San Vicente. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. I think one of the things is they like to come down to our lakes because a little bit less like liberal about we're not
oh,
really all
that's for sure.
that. Yeah, you want to call one day? We're going to have to do another a video on this. Is I'm going to tell you about how the quaggas started ever. I know exactly where it started. So
Oh,
we're not gonna talk about it now. Not
yeah.
gonna
Let's not get into that now.
but it would be interesting. So anyway, like I think the lakes. I mean, it's nice to have the water at San Vicente, and we got a whole lot of water at Otay. It would be nice for them to drop it a little bit,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but but I know, I have friends that I grew up with that were lake aides and lake rangers, and they ended up working for the city and retiring and doing other things and doing okay. But it's like we don't even have, like back in the day when we had a tournament. Let's say we had a team tournament at San Vicente. One of the girls would come down and waiters would help everybody launch boats. We don't have any. The city doesn't understand that
Right.
this is just another sport, just like soccer or baseball and it's the
That's a
best
good way
for
to put it.
kids. And the kids thing is fantastic, and it's just like they don't they're saying like the city doesn't have the money to keep it open all the time, like a lot of people trip that they come down here from like Texas and go, wow, I got to fish here only on Tuesdays and Thursdays and Saturday and Sunday. When you go any place in the country, the lakes are open and they're free even
24/7.
24/7. And it's
Yeah.
like, I'm okay with the lakes that they have an opening thing, opening time. I'm okay with that, but it'd be nice that they see that we need to keep the lakes open more days and it's not about saving money. It's like it's beyond that. It's about, oh, we don't have the funding. Well, if we have to get
Right.
bass fishermen to help you out, we can probably do that. If it gets to the point where we need bass fishermen to come and help you and don't want to pay them, we could probably do it to keep the lakes open and do the same thing. We don't know. There's all kinds of different variations that we could do. But
Hmm.
it'd be nice to have. I mean, El Cap has the lakes open pretty good. San Vicente does too. Um, I grew up on Murray, and I think they're open all the time too. But again, like look at Sutherland. Sutherland is not correct right now. It's only open Saturday and Sunday, and it's open on Fridays for kayaks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not a kayak or a float tube person, and
Right.
so it's not about that. It's just about fishing, just getting out there and and taking the kids out, taking the family out. So it would be nice to see them open a little bit more, and hopefully they don't. I know they got that thing going on that they want to stop. Is it San Vicente or El Cap for January?
Okay.
El Cap, which is crazy. And the only reason why they're doing El Cap is, wow, they're not making the money from all the skiers and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're the ones that really support the lakes in the sense of controlling it in like a better manner of not doing, you know, we're just fishing. A
Yeah.
lot of times when you see life flight, it ain't from a bass fisherman. We know it was a skier. Back in the day, it's so bad that the city wanted money. when I used to walk the bank as a kid, you couldn't put your feet in the water. You couldn't
Oh,
put your feet in the water. You could not put your feet in the water.
no
Oh, yeah,
kidding.
it was that bad. Yeah, if they saw you wading in the water, they flipped out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and now you got these guys like wakeboarding and all that. And I'm not, since I fished the desert lakes, um, before I did go fish the tour and stuff, I lived in Vegas for about 10 years in Henderson. So I fished Mead and Mojave and and living out there, it was great. All those lakes and stuff. It was kind
Yeah.
of a little bit different.
Yeah. They embrace it.
Yeah, they
That,
do.
that, that whole Havasu thing, it is nuts.
Oh, I
Like
have to see.
they embrace the tourism. They understand that this is
Oh
what's
yeah,
bringing Havasu to
sure,
life.
for sure. I mean, I know pretty sure it's your favorite lake and my favorite lake, correct? Lake Havasu. It is.
Honestly, I have a love-hate relationship with Havasu at this point. I love it, and then I hate it, and it's.
Well, we had a few like we fished some Bassmaster tournaments there, in the West because like I said, I did
Oh
go back.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I watched him on YouTube and whatever. Yeah.
I think the first one I fished was in '96, which was pretty interesting. But back in '96, when we did Bassmasters back there, it was boat on boat. So it was ever who you could BS the most. You go, hey man, I'm on these fish, and it's all about, they had to flip a coin. It was pretty.
Right.
That was a whole different animal that is not even people even talk about anymore.
Yeah.
It is, but
Yeah.
it's, you know, like
Right.
I was friends with Rick Clunn when I was on the trail, and I had when he won a couple of the U.S. Opens, I had the magazines from the front cover from Western Bass, and I told him I have the front cover. He goes, "Really?" I go, "Dude, I'll bring it to you." And I brought it to him, and like Seminole on one of the lakes. He was pretty like stoked. So
Yeah.
I knew I was friends with a lot of different people, and I still am. I still
Yeah.
talk to them all the time. But yeah, yeah. So
All righty, man. Well, we're
great.
43 minutes into it. I think we did a good job here.
Yeah, I like it. It was good. It was
Yeah.
good. So we'll see.
I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna have this up in, I don't know, maybe next week,
Good.
probably.
Good.
Maybe this week.
We'll see.
Depends on how the schedule goes.
We're good.
But thanks for coming on. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank
And
you.
we'll see you at the lake.
Okay, I will.
All right. Talk to you later, man.
Okay, bye.